E3 is basically over, and after streaming the Nintendo Direct with AJ and Bob Wolf and Dan Seibert, each from their own channels, I'm still reeling from some of the announcements we saw today. Of course, there's plenty of things we'd love to have seen that we didn't, but needless to say, Nintendo delivered in at least 10 ways, several more depending on your particular interest. So here are our top 10 announcements from the E3 2021 Nintendo Direct in announcement order, because we're too excited about a bunch of them to try to objectively make an ordered list right now. But I will tell you which one is absolutely number one when we get to it. Let's talk about it.
Let's be real, E3 2021 overall was a pretty lackluster set of presentations across a few days, but luckily, Nintendo came through with a couple of relatively hype announcements to salvage the event, for me at least, and I'm sure plenty of other people, as well as a lot of you. And while I have all your attention, side note, E3 is overrated and should die in favor of unscheduled, independent announcement streams that prioritize when games are ready to show rather than a generic date. But I digress. Despite being the resident massive Smash Bros fan here, the latest Fighter Pass announcement was probably the least interesting thing we're going to talk about here. To be fair, although it loses some points for largely being an announcement of an announcement, that still speaks to the overall quality of the Direct, because I'm definitely interested in having a character like Kazuya in Smash Bros Ultimate. Certainly not as a main, Pokemon Trainer still has that covered, or even a character in my regular rotation. But the fact that the newest Smash fighter isn't just another sword anime fighter and is instead yet another relatively unexpected rep that this time hails from a co-developer of Smash Ultimate itself can be seen as a pretty big W in my book. I'm interested to see how they transferred the appeal of Tekken into Smash, as well as seeing how well he fits into the roster and compares to his traditional fighter contemporaries like Ken, Terry, and Ryu. From what I can tell in the trailer, his combos will be pretty generous for Smash standards, since a lot of them look similar to the current fighting game reps in terms of hit stun. I'm curious to see if the Devil Mode, which is likely a comeback mechanic, will make him amongst the best characters in the game, like most of the Fighter Pass has seemed to do with its DLC characters so far. I'm also actually pleasantly surprised that we still have some time left before Nintendo completely calls it quits on Smash announcements entirely. All in all, Kazuya is a reasonable amount of hype even for me, and I'm excited to check him out on our Twitch stream whenever the character actually drops.
It feels like we're hot off the heels of Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD that released on my birthday in 2019, and the hopes for that franchise weren't super high since Sega remastered the best-selling game in the series, but not the best game. Fans have been wanting Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2, or at least something in their style, for a long time as the best games in the series, and Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania completely seems to deliver. It's all the Super Monkey Ball games, as far as I know them at least, and 1 and 2 and Deluxe are remastered here. So as long as they don't mess up the port, this was a slam dunk of an announcement for anyone who loves Super Monkey Ball, or even new fans who have a chance to get into it. I personally have fond memories of playing 2 all night in 7th grade, my friend Austin's birthday party, and watching Crocodile Dundee. So, although some of the surrounding details may have changed for that, the core gameplay experience should remain intact.
Mario Party Superstars was an announcement that I feel we all saw coming in our hearts, but the naive part of us hoped would materialize differently. During our co-stream of the event, and before you say it, yes, we knew, we know, we saw the tweet from Nintendo and Twitch, thank you for your concern, there was a lot of disappointment that this wasn't Super Mario Party DLC. While we would love to see that come to fruition, realistically, the writing was on the wall for a while that they'd continue the tradition of releasing solo Mario Party games. The online play update was a lot more than I thought we'd see, and honestly, further confirmation in my mind that a new game was on the way with online as a marquee feature. One of my biggest complaints with Super Mario Party, outside of the online play, which has since been rectified in that game as well as this, was how bland its selection of boards were. So having a Mario Party that packages together a selection of some of the best boards across the fan favorite era of the franchise's history is a no-brainer solution to that problem as well. On top of that, we know that the game will come part and parcel with 100 minigames from across the entire Mario Party history, so although I'd love for this to be DLC, I'd still happily pick this game up as a full game. Metroid Dread is probably the most interesting reveal of the entire Direct because it's one of those game reveals that demonstrates that literally anything is possible, and all of the armchair devs have no actual idea what they're talking about most of the time. Thought to be long gone and forgotten, the fabled Metroid 5, even thought to be codenamed Dread during its initial development, is back and is set to be released in October of this year alongside a brand new amiibo. This new take on the original canned idea is being helmed by Metroid Samus Returns devs Mercury's team and looks to heavily focus on the cat and mouse dynamic Samus seems to have with the new Boston Dynamics Nightmare Fuel EMMI robots. Armed with new tools and abilities of her own, Samus will have to outmaneuver and defeat these machines as they cycle through their surveillance, patrol, and chase modes. This game is set to be the conclusion to the 2D Samus meets Metroid saga, so longtime fans of the series should definitely check it out, and it also looks like newcomers will be kept up to speed as well, so even for someone like me that has mostly only tinkered with the franchise up until now, I'm excited to check this out to hold me over until Prime 4 is finally released as well. Warioware Get It Together has got to have the record for the closest fanatixfour speculation video to official Nintendo reveal turnaround of any video game in the entire history of this channel, because literally last week to the day, I made a video about what I'd like to see them do in a Switch WarioWare release with the assumption that we'd probably have to wait a bit longer, but from the looks of it, they did the most expected aspects of what I talked about there with the exception of online play, come on Nintendo, made 200 new micro games, added a heavy emphasis on cooperative play, and dated it for September 10th of this year. The only question I have left to see confirmed or denied is whether the game will actually end up being $50. Luckily, again, we don't have long to figure that answer out either.
As one of the first games ever announced for the Switch, Shin Megami Tensei 5 remains a title that we've predicted would show up at Direct after Direct for 4 years now. And finally, it was shown along with tons of gameplay, maybe a little too much for non-fans, and an actual release date for this year. Sure, Persona 5 isn't on the Switch, but this is also Atlas and should deliver on a lot of the same points when it releases. Some people actually like Shin Megami Tensei better, so there you go. But as far as an announcement, if it weren't for the fact that it were leaked ahead of time, it even showing up would have been a huge surprise after all this time, but the gameplay itself absolutely didn't disappoint. This will be a super deep and intricate RPG to add to the amazing catalog already being built up on the Switch. Okay, I hope you're not sick of me, because the way we split up the games, I'm actually the one talking about the rest of them. So, but last week, AJ and I did our E3 predictions, and we predicted another Nintendo exclusive Wii U port to be coming over, and here it is. Fatal Frame Maiden of Blackwater is often one of the titles that comes up in the last remaining games to appear from the Wii U, but this time as coming to all platforms. Like the Wonderful 101, it was published by Nintendo on the Wii U, but Koei Tecmo appears to be branching out on their own here to give the title everywhere, which just means the fun can be shared around all the more. It's a survival horror game where a camera is your main tool, and although horror games have appeared on the Switch before, this is just another instance of the Wii U slowly being killed off, and at this point, I'm just enjoying the show. Okay, wow, so this is the only game on this list that we saw outside of Nintendo's Direct since Mario + Rabbids Sparks of Hope was shown at Ubisoft's presentation, but really it was first unveiled seemingly accidentally on Nintendo's website a whole 12 or so hours in advance. You gotta learn the difference between AM and PM, people. Or my conspiracy theory that it was Ubisoft's ploy to get Nintendo fans to watch their show since it was the only Nintendo thing of interest there. But I digress. But man, this is honestly in my top 3 or at least top 5 of all games at E3. Mario + Rabbids Kingdom Battle goes on sale all the time and is an amazing game if you like something even the slightest bit tactical. And Sparks of Hope is upping the ante on every single front. Graphically, it looks stunning. The world is bigger, the combat is more refined, the characters are interesting as ever, and the theming is the right kind of unique. It's too bad this game doesn't come out until 2022, because I can't wait to play it. Along with Metroid and WarioWare and Super Monkey Ball and more, this is a show to give you hope in franchises that haven't been around in a while, and Advance Wars Reboot Camp is no exception. I've personally never played an Advance Wars game myself, but I'd also never played a Fire Emblem until Three Houses, and that game entirely sold me on the franchise. So I love seeing this announcement because it's what I've been hoping for of Nintendo embracing their outlier franchises and really giving them a chance. Again, not having played the series, I don't have a lot of detailed insight to give, and the Treehouse hasn't gotten to this game by the time I'm recording, so I'm curious about what gameplay enhancements they make, but I'm super excited that they're bringing this franchise up to the modern era, and hope this means they'll double down with a new game in years to come. But in the meantime, this was a hype announcement for one of their dormant series, which is what I love to see. And have you guessed which game is number one? Honestly, with how good Metroid Dread looks, it almost could be a close call. Depends on who you are, for sure. But the only disappointments I had with Breath of the Wild sequel trailer was not getting a date or a name. But everything we did see was breathtaking and amazing, and honestly lined up super well with my predictions from a video last week. Sure, it's not coming out until 2022, but after seeing the scope and how beautiful the game is and how interesting the new gameplay, I'll give them all the time they need to make this game the absolute best it can be. I won't go into every detail about the game because I'll probably make a video really dissecting it and what I think about it soon enough, but I just want to express how exciting this game looks on every front. I would say far and away the number one trailer, but some of the others, specifically Metroid, were so good that it's actually in really good company. Breath of the Wild is still my favorite game of all time, and I really wonder if this will be able to outdo it, or if the magic of the original is still something that can never quite be touched for me. Nevertheless, this is exactly the direction I was wanting to see today, and I am ecstatic. All in all, this was an amazing direct, and it's such a great testament that even the titles that were leaked ahead of time, like a 2D Metroid and just the assumption that Breath of the Wild 2 would show up, even yet completely delivered. Nintendo mentioned that they have more games still in the works, and even though that's always the case and we know that, it's nice to hear them say it, and I completely believe that there are some bangers in there. So we'll have to wait to speculate even longer about a new Donkey Kong or Kirby or whatever else, but the show we got today hit all the right notes, except that I would love to be able to stop saying Breath of the Wild 2, but so be it. But that's what I think. What do you think? What were your favorite announcements from this Direct or E3 as a whole? And how would you rate this presentation out of 10? Let me know all that and more in the comment section down below, and we'll talk about those and so much more on the podcast this weekend. It'll be crazy. And while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to fanatixfour for more content like this every Tuesday and Thursday, and maybe Wednesday this week. I don't know, we'll see. And the podcast channel at youtube.com/directly to you. That's it for me. Breath of the Wild 2. Peace and blessings.